force between our allies that kind of standing beside Ukraine, saying that our interests are directly tied with Ukraine's interests. So maybe let's ask what we want and what Ukraine wants to make sure that you're not only meeting with Putin and seeing what he wants, because how Trump went into that meeting
was that Zelensky right there.
Well, I know, but how Trump went into the meeting with Putin was very much, oh, our goal is a ceasefire. How he came out of it is, oh, Putin wants to just get to the full deal, we'll do that, which we both know, Robby, is going to take months. Right before that meeting with President Trump in Alaska, Putin bombed and Russia bombed Ukraine, dropped several drones on them. And so it was also a sign of disrespect to do that a night before a meeting with President Trump and then continue to do it, not agreeing to a ceasefire, because obviously they think that Ukraine will be able to get some ground or gather itself, and they don't want to give Ukraine any opportunity to even gather itself, which is also saying that they're not serious about ending this war. I think a big sign of being serious would have been saying yes, what most European leaders want. We are going to do a ceasefire, and that would have been Putin for the first time after 5 different meetings with President Trump, most of which on the phone and one in person, agreeing to do something to show, yes, I do seriously want to come to a deal here. But what I see now is just a kind of flip-flop back and forth, remembering that Trump put this arbitrary deadline in place for August 8th, saying if Putin doesn't come to the table with a, quote, ceasefire, that he's going to put economic sanctions on Russia. That deadline came and went. No economic sanctions happened.
Love economic sanctions.
I'm just saying, but nothing happened. So what I think we risk is being a flip-flop country and having President Trump at the helm of it saying he's going to make a deal, but all he's doing is bending to Putin's will. And what I risk is what the optics of that looks like, because Europe and all these European leaders,
who cares about the optics?
They care about how we look, because if we don't get it done, now he's asked Putin what he wants, and Putin will continue doing stuff that America is not in America or Europe's interest.
That's what he's going to do anyway. If Putin is committed to conquering Ukraine, he's just going to do it. And so at worst, under what I'm advocating, the worst outcome is, you're right, it's possible. He doesn't actually want peace, and he'll keep having meetings with people, but he's going to still keep conquering the entire country. That is a possibility under my plan. Under your plan, that is what is guaranteed to happen. So I don't understand what the issue is. And nothing, you think like a bigger rhetorical stand against Putin or sanctions or something, that's going to deter him? Of course not.
I think that our European allies have been very clear about what they think should happen next. They feel that a ceasefire should happen next, and they also are afraid, which was vocalized during this meeting, that the invasion that Russia is doing can happen again and elsewhere.
That's why
we need to get a security guarantee in place for sure. But it needs to happen under the terms that Europe is comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, even though Ukraine is not a NATO member, all these other countries that came to the table with Ukraine alongside them are saying Ukraine's interests are our interests. And so if we don't get in line, we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a vulnerable situation.
Russia is willing to go along with.
And also Europe and Ukraine. And so they are always the afterthought in these conversations. And I think that they need to be the forethought, because number one, a ceasefire is imminent in order to have anything happen. Because what will happen is Russia keeps taking more and more territory. And by the time we come down to it, there'll be no Ukraine anyway. So
we should have negotiated sooner.
Or we could put those sanctions in to see if Russia wants to really stop, right? There's a lot of things we can all do.
We have them in place. It's not gonna
everyone wants money. And so the minute we start to put them and strain their wallets is the minute they're in a precarious situation where they may consider, actually, this is not ideal, and we'd like to move forward in a way that's more...
I don't know. We've sanctioned we've sanctioned a lot of regimes before. Do sanctions have some track record of getting foreign hostile governments falling in line, going, oh, okay, now I'll be a pro-Western friendly organization?
Do Trump meetings with Putin have a track record of getting anything accomplished? How many ceasefires has Putin violated in the past?
We've tried moral condemnation, economic blockade, thunderous outrage, rallying Europe against him. Not that they're going to quit the energy, but everything else. We've tried that. It didn't work. Now we're trying Trump's approach, which is being nice and doing outreach and seeing if we can get a deal in place. Maybe we can't. At worst, we'll be right where we started.
I just want to know, Trump's approach, you're like, we've tried it, but you're pretending like this meeting with Putin is the first time that Trump has talked to Putin in the last 7 months. No, I just told you this is the 5th time they've spoken.
Well,
so we've tried it.
Is a little bit more complicated.
I understand. We've tried it multiple times, though, and Trump has every time been let down, like, oh, I'm so disappointed. I thought we had a deal on the table. He said on the campaign trail, this is going to be a day one issue, just knocked it out of the park. He admit this is harder than he thought, but maybe perhaps the way that he was going about it, like asking Russia first what they want and asking European allies and Zelensky second is maybe not the way we should try either. Maybe he should come in unison with Europe and say, this is what we want. We all together are equally, if not more strong than you, Russia. So listen to what we want and let's have a real deal to the table.
That's obviously not going to work. I mean, it's just so obvious that that's not going to do anything.
Tell me why.
Because they're not willing to send troops. And Russia doesn't care. Unless there's going to be ground troops sent by European countries or the U.S., that could make a difference on the battlefield, but that would also start a larger war with Russia. We would have to declare war on Russia, I would hope, in our congressional system, which no one wants to do. Not a single person is for doing that. So given that that's been taken off the table, this is the best we can do.
No, this is an issue stemming all the way back from the Soviet Union dissolving and Russia wanting more what they had after losing a war. And even though they're not saying that outright, everything that Putin has been indicating for the last decade is that he wants to go back to the Soviet Union, and Europe does not want that. And so these are all of our allies. So you're aware of all the ground that has been made and all the members of NATO that are now allied more with the U.S. than they are with Russia. It wouldn't behoove us in any way to allow Russia to inch closer to recreating any type of Soviet Union. And so that's kind of Putin's ideal goal here. So even when he goes in these meetings with Trump and Trump's like, I understand. It's like, in what world have people lost a war, lost land, and then gotten the land back and said, okay,
Liberals like to pretend that there is some all-out war option for constraining hostile regimes, and there just isn't. The solution to the problem you're presenting, that what if he just wants to reconstitute the Soviet Union and start conquering all of Europe, sorry, the answer to that is we got to have World War III. I'm unwilling to do that, and so I'm going to try other things. But you're like, well, maybe we'll really stand up to him, and then he's going to back down. It's not going to happen.
You don't know. We don't know. No way has worked so far. Biden's way hasn't worked, and neither have Trump's 5 conversations over the last 7 months. So still ahead, Hakeem Jeffries is making a promise of accountability should Democrats regain power in the midterms. And his first step, calling Kristi Noem before Congress. That's coming up next in My Lens. Stick around.